Welcome to another edition. We got game week edition, game week number 1 edition of Home Visit with Tyler Siskey and the Associates. And as always, joined by my two dudes, Eddie, Gran, and DJ Eliot. How we doing, guys?
Awesome.
Great.
I know we've been well traveled this week. I haven't. I've actually been staying at home. We won't say where everybody went, but I know everybody's well traveled. We actually have DJ coming in from his third different set in 3 weeks. He's rocking and rolling all over the country.
That's right. I keep it exciting.
I love it.
I'm like Waldo.
Yeah, where in the world? That could be a good segment. Where in the world is DJ Eliot?
That's right. You got to figure it out by my set. You know.
I love it. Hey, we're going to start things off this week, and I'm going to keep trying. I keep forgetting that we're on video now, and I keep moving out of the picture, so Raquel gets on to me, so I'll try to stay in the center because I'm getting old. My back hurts, so I got to keep shuffling. But we're going to start this week where we can't make this up because we were talking about investigations a couple weeks ago with Scott Frost and the Nebraska investigation. Okay, and I can probably, and we talked about it last week. And it's like every week now we got a new team that's under investigation. So I was really, what's the word I want to look for? I've had all weekend to think about this, but I don't know, man. I give up. It's like they just pick on people, but. So here's the deal for those of you who don't know. The NCAA is investigating Nebraska for use of an analyst, and what's out there is that basically, and they fired this guy. This guy's not on staff anymore, but basically they had video evidence of overuse of an analyst for special teams. Okay, well, for people that are out there and that don't know, every team now has an analyst. Okay, and it's basically a paid graduate assistant that's not allowed to basically coach players or instruct players or those kind of things, right? They're just literally supposed to be there talking to the coaches, okay? That's a good, when you just say that's a pretty good description for an analyst for you guys?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And I know every staff in America has them, okay? Y'all can't say this. Please don't say this. You don't even have to nod. I don't want to get y'all in trouble. But here's the truth, guys. 100%. Not 99.9, 100% of schools in America abuse this rule. This is a rule that's the gray area is tapped all over. There's not one school in America that follows this rule to the T. Now, I'm not saying that, don't get me wrong. There are some schools that abuse this rule more than others, but there's so many rules when it comes to the analyst. Like you can't, it's insane. I've been there. I've been an off-the-field coach. The same kind of rules apply for being an off-the-field coach. I've had to dance around these rules for a long time. Look, guys, everybody's breaking them. Again, this looks like Nebraska was going 75 in the right-hand lane, too, on this one. All right, the other one that they got them on was an off-site team workout arranged by the strength and conditioning coach during the pandemic. Okay, so apparently they were going somewhere else and working out when they couldn't work out on campus. I mean, I know that's against the rules. I call that good coaching. I don't know. I mean, again, I don't want y'all to comment because I don't want to get y'all in trouble. But here's what drives me nuts. Okay, it's not they wasn't out there doing endo. Okay, they had strength coaches working their kids out. So we talk about we're wanting the kids to be safe and all that stuff. Well, they're getting them conditioned to play. People think the weight room is all about getting strong and all those things. And y'all can't comment on this, but to me, the weight room is about preventing injuries and being in player safety as much as it is about getting stronger and getting bigger. Y'all agree with that?
Yeah.
Correct.
That was a huge. Just remember being in the COVID and when all that happened. I remember the discussions we had at Kentucky, just how with those guys off your campus and our strength and conditioning coaches having to send them stuff and how they really were, they were stressing the safety part of it. And some of these kids being in their basement using stuff, and they were on their own, they were going to different places. And the communication between the strength and conditioning coaches just by Zoom to trying to help them,
right.
to keep them safe. But you go back to this deal right here, and you go back to what we talked about last week, and you got Baylor, their situation, and that's a pretty bad deal, right?
Yeah, that's the thing is I don't understand. I mean, it's like, hey, look, you look at it's like Baylor is like, hey, I mean, they literally allegations, and I guess we got to say allegedly and allegations, but the allegations of covering up rape and those things. It was like, hey, they hit them with a plagiarism and cheating on a quiz. After all that investigation, that's what they came up with. But now the very next, we didn't even get out of the week. Like the results came out, and like less than a week later, now we're investigating Nebraska for use of an analyst, and we're going to hammer them, all that stuff. If that's the rule that they're picking, it's like, what rules are we picking? It's like we're nitpicking, and it's like, to me, it's like now that we have the name, image, and likeness, okay, and now we're not ever investigating if players are getting paid anymore. Now we got all this time, I guess, to go investigate this other stuff. I guess this is going to be the norm now. I don't know. I was actually laughing. I was talking to a buddy of mine that coaches college football this weekend, and I said, you know what? If a school ever from right now until the end of time, if they ever get in trouble for paying players and recruiting, they ought to immediately have like 100-year show calls, because that's not very smart. You can now pay them legally and be creative about it. So now there's all this time to use of analysts. Like, I don't think the public or even the NCAA understands how abused this use of an analyst rule is. Like, it's nonstop. Like, nonstop. And actually, the special teams role of an analyst is probably abused the most. All right? Because that's who usually, they're chart kickers and all that stuff, but they're not supposed to instruct them. Okay? You're not supposed to instruct them. And coaches, we coach, right? You can't sit there and go, and you can try to do things the right way, and all of a sudden a kid shanks one, you're like, hey, you need to fix your drop. Now, as innocent as that sounds, that's a violation, right? It's hard, man. I don't know.
I don't know if you saw that press conference that Scott Frost was in, where they were admitting that they were under investigation, but that may have been the angriest look on a face of a head coach that I've ever seen in my life. You ought to pull that press conference up. He didn't answer many questions, but he said a lot with his body language at that press conference.
Yeah, and y'all been through this. Of course, y'all been interviewed probably more than I have. Okay, especially Eddie. You've been interviewed. You were getting an interview when DJ and I were in grade school. But anyway, but to me, the other thing that ticks me off a little bit, and again, I would like to get y'all's opinion on this, is how coaches get put in front of the media, knowing that you're going to have to answer questions or about things you can't even talk about. Like, right. That just, like, there's nothing that Scott could say. The only thing he could do was look through somebody's soul. That's the only thing he could do, because he really couldn't say anything, because anything he says is going to be twisted and thrown against him. And it's like, and how many times you got this question is about, about your job security or where are you going next and things like that. And like with coaches, is the university supporting you? Like, what are they supposed to say? Like, why put, like, in this situation, why put them in front of the media? Make a statement. We're not commenting because it's the NCAA investigation. Don't put people in front of cameras and make them. It's just, it's insane to me. I don't understand it.
Well, and that's right, because there were questions fired at him right after they made the statement, and they were all regarding the investigations, and there's so little that he can say, but you could see it in his face that he wanted to say something. It just,
yeah.
It was a really, really interesting, one of the most interesting press conferences I've ever seen, because the head coach with his expressions was saying a lot of words.
It's like during recruiting, right before signing day, or when it gets hot and heavy, and you'll be in a press conference, they want to ask you something about recruiting when they know darn well you can't comment about a recruit, and and it's about a coach that's maybe having some success, and the rumors are out there that he's going somewhere. Don't ask him about it. That's between the university. It's between the head coach, but they can't help themselves, and I get it. They got to sell their stuff, and they got to get it all cranked up for everybody and the fans, but it's a difficult deal.
Well, attached with this story too is Scott Frost was somehow trying to get out of the Oklahoma game. So attached in this same story is a leak, from somebody within Nebraska that said that, hey, they're under investigation for these two things, and by the way, Scott Frost was trying to get out of the Oklahoma game. And so at his press conference, he addressed that for sure. He said, listen, I got nothing to do with the scheduling, okay? I'm the coach. Whoever they put on the schedule, that's who I play. He's like, I love the tradition of playing Oklahoma, you know? So he did touch on that point, but, you know, that's all part of this same narrative that's out there, is that this person within Nebraska has leaked the investigations and that Scott Frost was trying to get out of the Oklahoma game. So he was pretty upset at that press conference.
Yeah, and if you're Scott Frost, and the leaks are coming. That's another thing. I don't think fans understand this. Coaches have zero to do with scheduling. I only know one that actually has said anything about it. Okay, well, they come in there, and the ADs, and y'all probably been in the meetings, you'll have a staff meeting, and, you know, hey, look, in 2036, hey, what do you think about an out-of-conference game against Appalachian State in 2036? You're like, hey, sounds great, because guess what? Nobody in this room is going to be here in 2036.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Sounds great. And it's like, it's nobody cares, because that's literally, they schedule these games so far in advance, and coaches, like, which drives my wife completely insane, because I'm like this. I'm day by day. You know, if I have to look ahead in maybe a week, but I'm very hyper-focused on what's right in front of you as coaches, and you're trained like that for so long. We don't care who we're playing 6 years, 7 years from now. I mean, like, nobody in that room, including the players, are going to be there. So sounds great. We'll deal with it then. You know, whatever y'all want to do. But yeah, and the other thing that, like, Eddie, you hit on it just a second ago. That's where I've had my biggest run in, where it just drives me nuts, is in recruiting, because you get asked, like, you can't comment on players, right? And as a staff, and y'all been here too, you're rarely, you know, complimented on the class that you get. You're always, you know, criticized about who you didn't get, okay, or who you didn't take. And I wish they would lift that rule, because I would love to get in front of a camera and tell the public why we didn't take that kid. I'd love to do that, but you can't do it. And people think it's just, you know, everything's hunky dory, everything's in this perfect world. No, there's reasons that you don't take people. There are reasons.
Along the lines of criticism from the media on recruiting, you know what I would like? I would like a staff to be evaluated on recruiting 4 years down the road, and who's on the field and who goes into the NFL. And it's amazing to me that the fans and the media, they don't even talk about that. You know what I mean? They forget. Like, I know recruiting classes or recruiters that have a reputation of being great, and the guys that are signed don't even get on the field. You know what I mean?
Nope.
And then it's the two-star that somebody out-evaluated that ends up being the best player on the team and going to the NFL, and that staff, okay, or that person that recruited them, in my opinion, that's the all-star. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the all-star. I mean, 4 years down the road, you look at, from the signing class, who the starters are, who the all-conference players are, who the NFL players are, and you would be surprised how many of those guys were no names in the signing class, and were guys, like you said, Tyler, that you were getting criticized for taking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or the guys that they were patting you on the back about are not even in the program anymore.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
you know those guys, like, and here's the thing is, like, let's say this is where you get into it a lot in recruiting, is like, you know, you're taking a shot on a guy, and you know some guy gets ranked really high. Okay, so let's say there's a cat from I'm at Ole Miss, and there's a cat from New Jersey. Okay, and he's a 4-star kid, and we get him. Oh my gosh, they got this 4-star guy. He's ranked this. Well, guys, there's a reason that he's going from New Jersey to Oxford, Mississippi. There's a lot of schools in between there. Okay, and he's up there in Big Ten country, and they are passing on him. He's not coming down here because he loves Ole Miss. He doesn't really have that many committable offers. Okay,
Right.
and so it could be academics, it could be character, it could be development. There could be 1,000 reasons why he's able to come down there, and you can take a shot on him. But in our mind, we're like, man, we're taking a shot. If he turns out to be great, great. But those guys rarely pan out. Like, I want to do that. I want to do a study where all these guys go across country, how long they last, because they don't. That's very frustrating. And you hit the nail on the head a second ago too, DJ, is like I would like for when you're talking about like development and rankings. That's why I want to do a development ranking. Okay, just on what you're talking about. It's like people don't like when we left Arkansas State. It was Arkansas State. We're in the Sun Belt, and we got to Ole Miss the very next year. So you're going from the Sun Belt to the SEC. Our roster was 15 times better at Arkansas State than it was at Ole Miss when we got here. Okay, at least 15 times better. And we had it was insane all the NFL players that we had. Now did we know it when we recruited them? No. Anybody else know it? No. But they developed into really good players. And like we were talking about earlier, we had a first round pick. We had a first round pick in that class, but they developed. Okay, he was after 1 year wasn't developed enough to where Gus Malzahn, didn't think he was good enough, and he cut him. Okay, and he ends up going to Sanford, and he became a first round pick. And so guys don't understand that. But I'm big with you on the development. And I don't know if y'all are familiar. Like I went on a podcast. I was still at Ole Miss. I went on a podcast and talked about this. But where I used to get hot and still don't understand some of the rankings and things like that is these kids are getting re-ranked after they're already in college. And people don't realize that. Like they're trying to.
Right?
Oh yeah, I looked into. Somebody had told me about it, and I was like, no, they don't do that. And I looked it up, and they do. If you'll follow you'll see like these 3-star guys that are going to be first round picks, and they'll go from being like the 1,500th player in the country to like the 250th player in the country. They'll start moving them. They don't want to change their stars, but they'll move them within the ranking deal to make them look like they didn't miss all. I got a great
story for you. When I was young like you guys, starting out, and I remember this with Tommy Tuberville at Ole Miss back in 99, I guess it was. Now that was Auburn. It was actually before that, 94, 95. But I remember sitting in that staff room, and Coach said, listen, this is my first head job. He just got in the Ole Miss job. And he said, I can teach you how to coach. He said, and I remember I'm sitting there and I'm nervous. And he said, but if you don't recruit and can't recruit, I'm going to fire you. And I'm going to tell you, I sat there and it helped me because I made sure that I went out and I beat the bushes and I tried to be a great evaluator and I tried to do a good job. But the pressure that coaches put on assistants, and then you have the media, and then you have the people that, it's not about how many you sign. It's about what DJ talked about. It's about 4 years from now, 5 years from now, are they playing in the NFL? Did they produce? Did they play for you, for 3 years? Were they a starter? And so I always said this. If I was a head coach, this is what I would do. I would say, staff, we're all in this together. The object of this is to get the best players, the best personnel for what we do and to win games. So everybody's going to have an area. Everybody's going to be partnered. No matter where you're at, you're going to have another guy with you. And it's going to be a position coach and then the coordinator. And we're all going to get credit together. There's going to be some fertile areas and some non-fertile areas. But some of those non-fertile areas, we've got to go in and we've got to do our due justice because we've got to go in there and we've got to make sure we know those high school coaches. Because eventually, down the road, if we do a great job in 4 years and we're still here, we're going to get one from there because we've done a great job. But then take that pressure off everybody that, hey, all hands on deck. When everybody comes up on an official visit, everybody's a part of this. And it just takes that pressure off. If you don't sign one in your area for that year, that's fine. But if you have helped in the process, we signed 25 great players and they're productive, then you've done a great job. And I think that's what I would do. I would just take it off of everybody and say, let's sign the best for our team.
You're 100%.
And I hated it.
You're 100% right, Eddie. I mean, the goal is winning games. The goal is winning games, right? And you're going to win games based on the best players that you have on your football team, regardless of who signed them, and regardless of how many stars that they were given. And I would, along the same lines, Eddie, I would find a way somehow that the recruiting services, okay, did not have a coach's name next to the recruit. I would find a way somehow to get where there was no coach's name next to a recruit. And that the philosophy within recruiting is that we all recruit every kid. We all decide which ones we want, so we would evaluate them together, right? And then after we make that decision, we all recruit every kid. Because like you talked about, the pressure on a college coach right now to sign guys, it unconsciously makes him either go for guys that are easier to get, to go for a guy that maybe he's questioning some things about the guy, but he wants to look past it because he knows he can sign the guy. You know what I mean? It just puts pressure on you so much to sign somebody that you're not necessarily going after the best players that you can get for the program.
One of the worst things that's ever that's happened to me in my career is that when I've signed somebody and he doesn't pan out, I felt awful. That's on me, okay? But it's the worst, and it's to me it was a failure. So because that's happened, I've had pressure, and you've signed somebody or you've talked somebody into something, and you have all those meetings behind closed doors. Go, we got to take this guy. We got to take this guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you can alleviate all that in the first meeting as a head coach, and say, man, this is about us. Okay, this is about us as a team. So anyway.
Well, it's kind of like Nick Saban says, I'm going to evaluate you on the process, not the outcome, right? You can evaluate a coach for how he recruits, whether he signs a guy or not. You can evaluate a guy for how he hustles, how he evaluates, how he sells. You know what I'm saying? You know if he's doing a good job recruiting, you know what I mean? Regardless of the numbers that he signed in a signing class.
Sure. I think one thing go ahead. I was just going to say, when you say all hands on deck, just how important it is that when you've got 10 coaches on an official visit or an unofficial visit, and you've got everybody touching that family, and everybody's there, and that family leaves, and they go, wow, we met everybody, we know everybody made me feel at home, because at some places, it's just that recruiting guy and maybe one other people, and they don't get to get everybody, and I think it's incredibly important.
Yeah, the one thing too, and I see this a lot, and running recruiting, and I got all these, I don't have an area, I had the whole area, right? You see this all the time, and it kind of hit on what you were saying, DJ. And this is the part, is I think when you got, and I guess we're getting older now, but the way we learned how to recruit growing up, which was exactly what we're talking about, is like, it doesn't matter. Like, every single person that we grew up with and who we learned from was like, hey, we're all in this together. Now, as the coaches are getting younger, okay, and recruiting is getting hotter, you got, like, I know this for a fact, you got guys on staffs, I'm talking about big staffs, SEC staffs, okay, and I saw this, and I literally said, they will not be there very long, and they're not already. They got let go. But they are a bigger SEC school, and they were coming and recruiting guys that were highly ranked guys, okay? And it was like one particular guy. But these coaches, what they do is like, hey, I want to win Recruiter of the Year, and like what you're saying is they're going to go find the 4- and 5-star guys that are easy to recruit, and everybody's like, how are 4- and 5-star guys easy to recruit? They are. And the guys that they can sign, and so it looks like they've signed, 5 4-stars and 1 5-star. But then those guys either don't make it academically, they're terrible character, and they get dismissed, or they're in the transfer portal because they're not happy. There are countless 4- and 5-star guys that have major character problems, okay? And I'm not going to call the kid out by name, but there was a 5-star guy that I loved as a player like 2 years ago, and he's already in the portal because of a domestic violence issue. Okay, but that was known. That's why he ended up at a school that, everybody's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we signed this guy. Well, there's a reason why you signed that guy. It's not because your guys did a great job recruiting. He was easy to sign. It's not that he wasn't good enough to go play. That's what people don't understand. A lot of times these guys are plenty good enough to go play at the big time schools, but from a character standpoint, an academic standpoint, either A, they're not going to make it, Okay, or B, the character is so bad that there's no chance that the guy's ever going to make it. And there was a case where there was a kid that we were recruiting. We got crucified in the press and the media and the fans that we didn't sign a kid. And he goes off, and he was ranked really high. He goes off. He wasn't even like, there was no chance that he was going to be eligible. No, 0.0 chance he was going to be eligible. Good kid, did not have character issues, but from an academic standpoint, couldn't make it. They wasted an initial on the guy, but we're the bad guys again. It was this coach, these young guys trying to like show that they're good recruiters, because they're doing that for 1 or 2 years, and they're going to get the next big paycheck. They're not even going to be there when the kid, it's time to see if he develops or not. And so they're just using that to keep going up the ladder in recruiting, and the guys don't even pan out because they're not there. Well, anyway, this kid, we get crucified over, we didn't take the guy. He doesn't make it, and in June, he's in junior college, okay, because he didn't qualify, but nobody ever says anything about that. We still should have signed the kid, you know, so, or you get this, okay, and this happened to a guy. It's like, I can't believe we need D lineman, and we're not going to get this guy. He's 6'4", 290-pound defensive lineman, and he's a 4-star, and he's really good. You're right. He's a really good player, but he's 6'1", 260, and that doesn't play in the SEC. Okay, and, you know, and then they don't pan out. But I'm with you. I wish they would, like, go back and say, hey, this is who you recruited, and this is what they are now. I wish they would do that. But
I mean, how many times the NFL players are the no-names? I mean, time and time again, the guys that end up being NFL players were the no-names in the recruiting class. You know what I mean?
It's like every year the Patriots win it. It's like their average star is like 2.7 or something. Like if you take their whole team.
There was a Super Bowl game with the Patriots and somebody else a few years ago, and they said that. They said it on TV. Out of the two teams, the starters, the average star was like 3. It was awesome. You know, there was like 0, 4, or 5 stars out there for that Super Bowl game.
Yeah, but it's like this. It's like who's the best quarterback in the NFL right now?
The GOAT.
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady. No, I mean they didn't like in the draft, so that's probably not a fair one. But like you look at somebody like Patrick Mahomes, okay? It was like, and he was kind of he's a younger guy that was in kind of the recruiting rankings deal. I mean, the guy ends up at Texas Tech. Like, no offense to Texas Tech, but if right now, like if Nick Saban knew Patrick Mahomes was going to be Patrick Mahomes, do you think Alabama would have been recruiting him? Yes.
Right.
You know, they develop and then they evaluate, and good for them. They evaluated well. But if you look at like who you would consider like big time stars, I mean, yeah, there are some. Don't get me wrong. Julio Jones pretty damn good. He was up there, and you got your AJ Browns and your DK Metcalfs and all those guys. But there's a lot. I mean, a lot of these guys don't. I mean, they were just guys. You know what I mean? Like just guys. It's like I almost wish you had a time machine. You could go back and know the guys at Central Michigan and all those guys that turned out to be first round picks. You look like a guru, but it is what it is. All right, hey, since we're talking about recruiting, we're gonna move on a little bit. Okay, I know you guys. This is kind of fired up. This will fire up the whole fan base right here. Okay, I think we're moving into finally the NCAA, as we talked about a couple weeks ago. They leaked some information. Everybody says that per sources, but they're leaking information to get opinions. Basically, what they're doing. So we're gonna give them ours. All right, but they are proposing finally after something that I sat down personally with. I didn't know if I ever told you guys this, but when the transfer portal started in March of the year before it came into existence, I actually got a chance to sit down with the NCAA and discuss the portal and the issues that was going to happen and what they had to do to fix it. And this was actually in my proposal in 2018. So we're in 2021? We're 3 years later, and they're finally getting to it. So it's about, which we've talked about the roster management and how teams are never going to be at 85. So the NCAA has leaked where they are going to give some NLI, not NILs, to be confused. I get confused a lot too. That's National Letter of Intents. You get 25 a year as ruled right now, but they're going to give some relief to help with the scholarship issue, right? Because people are never going to be able to be at 85 anymore. And by the way, I do want to give kudos to Todd Berry, who is head of the AFCA, really good football coach, always is a coach of common sense is what I call him. And he's kind of heading this thing up because he kind of basically went to them and forced their feet to the fire and said, look, guys, you're having a problem. They don't want to listen to me, but they listen to him. But here's what I guess the most common compromise is what they're trying to do. And there's 1,000 different proposals. We'll discuss kind of what they think is their solution, and then I'll get what your guys' opinion are. All right. So what they're saying right now is you would get 25 initials plus any initial that you lost to the transfer portal. So up to 32. So let's say you lost 5 guys, okay, to the portal. You would now be able to sign 30 in the next class. If you get to 30, if you lose 7 guys, you could get up to 32, but that's where it kind of stops. If you lose 15 guys, you still only get 32. That's kind of the max. There have been other proposals that they discussed in this article. And it was, let me give him credit, Ross Dellinger with Sports Illustrated who broke it. But the other one was saying sign 30 or 35, period. One was saying that 25 of them had to be high school players, okay? And then I thought that was a very interesting, and as much as I would like to agree with that, I don't, but we'll talk about that. So we'll start with you, Eddie. What do you think as far as what would be your solution, and what do you think about their proposals that they've come up with?
Well, it's a little bit, the worrisome part for me would be this, is that if you can get up to 32 and you have 8 that you lost to the portal, and how did you lose those 8? You know what I mean? I hate to say this, but did you push them out? You know, were they not the ones that you maybe wanted? Was there a character issue? Was there, he couldn't play as well as you thought? And then, you know, you make things miserable for the kid, and he goes out and now you get 8 more now. So now you're signing, or whatever it is, you sign, you know, you're 32, and then the next year you got another 8 after that 25, and you say, well, we got to get rid of these guys again too. So I'm glad you said that. I want to talk about this, okay? And I'm so glad you just said that. All right, so I left this part because I was trying. It's a long article. If you haven't read it, it's a long one. But one of the thing, and this is what frustrates me about people making rules, okay, is that they're like, everything sounds great, but it's not factual, okay? So one of the rules is like, hey, they have to go in the portal on their own, okay? And I put that in quotes for the people who are just listening on the podcast. They had to go in the portal on their own. You couldn't force them into the portal or cut them, okay? Guys, that's not hard to do. Like, if that's the rule that you come, I'll be like, great, okay? If that's the rule you come to me with, because I mean, we all know, DJ. I came to you. I'm the NCAA, DJ. I come to you and I say, hey, DJ, they can't leave. They have to go in on their own. How would you, if you didn't want a guy there, how would you fix it?
It's really not that hard, and honestly, it's the way that the kid would want it handled too. You just sit them down and just say, listen, we've out-recruited you. You're never going to play here. You're going to be on the scout team the rest of your career. And it's usually a truthful conversation anyway. It's not something that's disrespectful. It's not anything that, you know, was miserable for the kid. It was just an honest evaluation, you know. And any college football player, okay, that hears that isn't going to stay because nobody wants to sit around and not play. You know what I mean? And so it's just the way it is.
That's what I'm saying. So that rule right there, that's how you fix it. I mean that's like it's you're not like, nobody goes like, and maybe they do. I've never been a part of it, okay? But nobody, if it goes to getting rid of a guy, nobody has gone in there and said, hey, you suck, we're cutting you, bye. That's not how, because you have personal relationships with these kids, man. And you're not going to sit there and be mean. It's like you're almost, it's a sad deal because it's like you're dealing with your own children sometimes, you know, and you're like, look, I love you. I want to have you around, but here's the truth. You're not going to play. Now, because here's the thing is like, maybe it's because football is like the last place that brutal honesty exists with coaches. I would say most coaches are like that. I'm not going to say all of them because I know some that are like afraid of confrontation, but the older guys, well, that's because that's how we were treated, and that's we'll just sit them down and say, hey, look, it's nothing personal. I love you, okay, but here's the deal: is you're not going to play, okay? We want to have you around, you're going to be on scout team, you're going to do this. And the kids will either, like, if they're have any competitive character in them at all, or either going to try to get better, they think they can get better, or they're going to leave, which most of the time they're going to transfer and leave. This has been going on forever. This is not something new. And, I think that the fact that they think that, nobody's going to say, you suck, go in the freaking portal. Nobody says that. So the kids are going to go in on their own. And, they asked Todd Berry about it. They were like, hey, well, what about, what's going to happen? Well, a lot of times when you tell a kid will be upset when you tell them that sometimes, and they may go to compliance and say, he kicked me off the team. But then you just go back to them and you say, this is what the conversation is. And when it comes to, and everybody's like, well, how are you going to prove it? Well, I can tell you how I would prove it. I wouldn't be in there by myself. I'd have a couple, 2 or 3 people in the same room of conversation where you have witnesses. It's not a one-on-one closed door situation. You have record of it, and then you're clean. But, that's the thing to me. The other thing that, going back to what we were talking about with people not understanding the rules, making things, is like, so they kept saying this in the article about, normally 25 in 4 years, that's 100 scholarships. So you have 15 spots for normal attrition. That's not how attrition works, okay? You have 5 years at 125, okay, trying to get, like, you have 5 years of classes trying to make up to 85. You have a lot, you have 40 spots of attrition. 15 spots of attrition is not enough. Like, that's why you have 40. I kept saying 15. It's not 15, it's 40. And that's been going on forever, and that's still not enough because you got academics, again, character transfers, NFL injuries. You got all kinds of reasons why people go to leave early. And then, as you know, a lot of times these fifth-year guys, they say, I don't want to play my fifth year. I'm graduated. I passed my fifth year. So the attrition level is going to have to be dealt with. What would you say, Eddie, if you had to put one together? What would be your proposal as far as, like, all right, this is how would it be, the 25 plus 7? How would you do it?
I would probably, it would be just the 25 plus 7. That makes sense to me. What I get, it's like DJ said, it is pretty easy. I think when you bring a kid in and you do sit down and watch film with him and say, this is why, you could, I think 99% of it is right. Those kids will leave. But I just don't think, here's to me the hardest part for a head coach, okay? And you tell me how this would work. It's that freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior class, if you get somebody in there now with all this transfer portal and you're high-ended on that senior and junior class and you don't have kids that you're developing, how do you fix that? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because then a staff gets fired because there's a lot of pressure, right? So that you might get a staff that comes in there and all they're doing is transfer portal, junior college, and then where's the development? You know what I mean? So maybe it's just high school kids. So that's my dilemma here. And and I think that's hard to do now with the way they're doing this transfer portal.
You just swung me. You just swung me. See, I listen and I will say when I'm wrong. You actually just made a great point, because I've been saying this and I've actually talked to a couple of head coaches that are thinking like this. Is like, and you and I have talked off air about it, but like where it's, hey, look, you got 85 scholarships, go fill them the way you want to fill them. If you want to sign 85 this year, sign 85 this year. Now, I think people will find that you don't want a lot of numbers, and because it's very hard to sign that many kids. Like I remember we had 31 and 19 at Ole Miss. That was hard. You're trying to fill out 31 kids. That's hard to do. But you changed my mind there, because if you do it that way, what I was just saying to do, and I know a couple of head coaches that are thinking that way. If you do it that way, what's to stop you from you'll never recruit a high school kid and we can just go sign free agents every year. So I'm with you. I don't know if what I don't want to happen is I don't want to be where it's I don't want to be where it's like you got to develop the high school kid. I do not think you should put a limit on how many high school kids you recruit. I know there is one proposal about that. But I'm with you. I don't know if it's plus 7, maybe plus 10, or just if you lose guys to the portal, you can replace those initials. That's the only thing that I think. But I would hate, again, because like we were talking about off the air, we haven't seen the last piece of this puzzle yet. okay, to really make a great educated decision. And for me, the last piece of the puzzle is going to be, it's basically, right now it is what I thought it was going to be, but you're going to have these group of 5 schools or coaches, or even a lower Power 5 coach that's going to leave. He's going to win a bunch of games, and he's going to leave and he's going to go somewhere. And when he does that, he's going to take 3/4 of his team with him. Okay, he's going to take all of his good players with him to that other school. That's going to be, because now you're going to leave that school you just left in a hurt. Okay, you're going to leave them in a quandary, and I want to see that last piece of the puzzle. And so I think that they need to do something now and give them some relief for 22, and then readdress it in 23 after this last piece of the puzzle goes through, and let's come up with a permanent solution. But that's the big thing for me too, is let's don't wait. Like we talked about, and DJ, we talked about this before, but like, don't wait till December 1st to say, hey guys, you got this many more initials. You didn't do anything. You got to do it now so they have the time to go get these kids. Or if, like, like a lot of these, I talked to a guy the other day, they're saving 10 of their 25 for transfer portal. They're signing 15 kids. Well, if you go ahead and say, hey, look, you're going to have this, they can go out and get other guys. Like, do it now. Don't wait till December to do it. Let's go.
22's done already. 22's done.
That's probably the biggest misconception to the public. Like, group of 5, 22 is done. And if it's not done, you know exactly who you're going to get. Like, there's not, like, like, I put it like this. When, even at Ole Miss, we may not have 25 commitments, but I can give you the 35 kids that those 25 are coming out of. I can cut it. I got it honed down that much to where I know these are the kids I'm recruiting. Now, you start adding some more initials, I got to expand my roster. I got to expand my number. But we need to do that now. Don't wait until December, 2 weeks before signing day, which is what they tried to do last year with the relief on the COVID deal. You got to let people know so they have time to plan. This is not something that you go drink a beer and you come up with a plan. It takes time, and it's a well thought out deal. You measure twice and cut once, but don't wait until the day. It's like the kid that waits the night before the final exam to study for a test. Your results aren't going to be that great unless you prepare in advance. Okay. And that's my big thing with this is whatever they decide to do, which I'm glad that it's on the table and they're actually talking about it. That's positive. But let's do it now. Let's don't wait and we can't get this meeting scheduled. Make time. Let's get it done. This is a big deal. This is going to change a lot of things now, and it can help in a great way. Now, who's going to benefit the most from it? The high school kid. Because now there's going to be, like you said, Eddie, we're going to be able to develop, we're going to protect the game a little bit. And now, you're talking about, this is not a joke. I'll bet you if nothing's done, you're going to see 30 to 40% less high school kids sign this year than ever before.
Oh, it's like I was talking about last week. With the one-time transfer rule the way it is now, some of these group of 5s, they're not even looking at high school kids because if they do develop them, they're going to lose them, And if they want to have any stability in their roster, they're actually getting more stability through the transfer portal because those guys have to sit out. They can't transfer again.
So that's so crazy, DJ. How about this? I heard that last year a coach from a smaller school played a Power 5 school, and this kid did great, and he was very special. And after the game, a coach went up to him to shake his hand and said, hey, you need to come here.
Yeah.
Hey, great game and all that, but he said, hey, listen now. Give me a call. I think you can play here at our school. Are you kidding me? That happened on the football field after a game.
Well, the one-time that's the biggest change in college football, in my opinion, is the fact that you are immediately eligible as soon as you transfer. That is what's changing the game more than anything right now. And we're just getting into it, but what are going to be the recruiting under or behind closed doors that people are doing, just like you mentioned, Eddie, to get kids at other programs. And even the evaluations, like I've talked to a lot of college coaches that said they don't only need a high school evaluator now, they need like the NFL. They need a college evaluator. Because in the NFL, you have your college scouts and you have your pro scouts. So the pro scouts know which free agents are the best players for when they become available, right? Well, that's the way college is going to be now with the one-time transfer. Is they need college evaluators so they know, boom, hot list right now. If this guy enters the portal, that's who we want. You know what I'm saying? That's the biggest change in college football. And that's the main reason why there needs to be more initials. The fact that you can immediately play as soon as you transfer is screwing up rosters tremendously.
Sounds like we're in the NFL to me. I mean,
Exactly.
Is this not the NFL? They're getting paid.
Yeah.
They're a free agent if they want to be.
Well, I talked to a college coach this week who coached in the NFL, and he said it's worse than a free agent. A free agent is at least locked in for 3 years, the existing of his contract. He said it's worse than a free agent. A free agent, he has a contract for 3 years, and then he's up. These contracts are 1 year. They're 1 year, and they can go anywhere. And since that rule is in place now, you have to have more initials. There's no way you can operate. What's happening is nobody is getting 85. And like you mentioned, Tyler, the high school kids that usually would be getting scholarships aren't getting them because we can't even fill the 85 scholarships that we have because it's so easy to transfer that attrition is going through the roof in college football. Attrition is at the highest rate it's ever been because everybody is immediately eligible as soon as they transfer.
And if everybody's saving 10, like Tyler said, and it's, if everybody's saving 10, that's a lot of numbers of those high schoolers that aren't getting scholarships.
And the other thing that is affecting, which we've talked about on here before, is like I got a call last night from a high school coach. He can't figure out, and I can't either. He has got a player, and he's at a big school now. It's not like he's hidden out in the middle of nowhere. That, to me, this kid's an SEC player all day long. An SEC receiver all day long. He's got like a couple of group of fives and FCS schools. Because now everything's filtering down because there's fewer and fewer spots. I mean, this guy should be playing in SEC. But he said, literally, the coaches are telling, like, this is coming from coaches. Hey, if you go there and you produce, we'll get you. We'll take you on the transfer portal. Like they're telling their backup plans. They're telling to go ahead and go to those smaller schools, and they're maintaining relationships with those kids so they can get them back in the portal if they turn out to be good players.
And you're killing the high school coaches.
You're killing the high school
parents.
Like you kill them.
Hammering those guys, and so now they're transferring in high school because they think they can go and they get a scholarship at this. You know what I mean? So that high school coach, it sucks. It really does. It's a bad deal for them.
Yeah, but they and I'm glad that they're talking about it. I know we're all passionate about it because I wish the only thing I wish they would do is like on these. And I'm going to nominate myself since y'all go coach again. I wish they would like have somebody on the committee that does these rules. And I'm glad like Todd Berry's AFCA. He's not with the NCAA. NCAA needs people on these committees, or at least talk to people that actually have been inside, know what's going on, and not make a rule and like let's hope it works. Like there are ways to think through this and to understand. Like they don't know. It's kind of like go back to Scott Frost and the analysts. Like there's nobody following the rule. Why are we picking on them? Like that's the dumbest thing ever. Like what are we doing? Like what are we doing? And it's the same thing with this. It's like it's taken 3 years to figure out that it's going to hurt our numbers. Like this was before the transfer portal even came in. They were aware of it. Like, why does it take us 3 years? And they actually, good for them because they beat it. Because my last words to them when they looked at me like I had horns coming out my head, I said, it's going to take 5 years for you to realize that you have a problem. And then it's going to take you another 5 years to fix it. I said, so this is, it's got to be something done on the front end. And it's just the way people think, okay? If you take 2 seconds when you go to make a decision and you go, because, and this is the thing, I've talked about this before too. That was one way I learned how it helped me change the way I think a little bit when I was with Coach Saban, because he said, look, he says, every decision you make has a consequence. Every decision you make. He goes, the problem is people think that consequences are always bad. That's not true. Sometimes there are good consequences. The definition of consequence is a result of a decision. So you need to go, okay, if I make this decision, bop, 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 that's going to happen. Okay, and so you have to make sure that the decision you make falls in line with the results that's going to come from that decision, and think about other things. So in this case, hey, you want to do the transfer portal? That's great, but this is what it's going to cause. It's going to cause attrition, and it's going to cause major problems with roster management. So with the transfer portal, when we put this rule in place, we should also allow for a different initial rule that goes in place. Not wait till it all screws up and all goes to hell, then try to fix it, because it takes more time. Like, just think about things before they happen, and then make the decision after that. This is not a hard process, okay? It's kind of like, we do it in marriages all the time, right? Hey, if I go right now, I really want this set of golf clubs. Eddie, I like that new driver, man. I want to go get this $499 driver, okay? I know when I buy that driver, every person that's married knows this. I go and buy that driver. Okay, is my wife, the first thing that goes through your mind is like, what's the wife going to say? And if you can live with that decision, then you get the driver. And if you can't, then you don't. And so, what's wrong with thinking about that when it comes to NCAA rules? Think about what's going to happen when you make the decision and fix those things on the front end. It's not a hard process, and it just drives. You can tell I get hot about it, man. It just drives me nuts. So I'm gonna get off my Cisco soapbox on that one. That just ticks me off. So y'all got anything else to say about that before we move on?
No,
We just have to add initials. One way or another, you can't keep operating at 25 when you have a one-time transfer rule where people are eligible right away. The attrition rate is through the roof. Yeah, you got to find a way to add initials.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's have some fun. I was gonna do this last, but I want to do this. I want to do this next. We're gonna have a little segment here called Yes or No with DJ and Eddie. Okay, so this is how it's gonna go. I think give you a little we'll mix in some personality questions in there along with your knowledge. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask you a question. It is a yes or no question, and you answer it one way or another. Now you can expound on it. Expand on it. I say expound like I'm an English major. We say expand in Alabama. You can expound on it. But you can say a little bit more about it, okay, or not, okay, and then we'll start with Eddie, and we'll go to DJ, and then you can both will answer the same question. So we'll start with you, Eddie, first. Does a Pac-12 team make the college football playoff?
No.
Okay.
No.
I like it. DJ, does a Pac-12 team make the college football playoff?
I would say no as well. Now I will tell you this. I one thing that I am impressed with the Pac-12 is the top Pac-12 teams do have very hard non-conference opponents. Okay, you look at Oregon's playing Ohio State. Okay, USC always plays Notre Dame. You know what I mean? So I don't anticipate, because I'm not sure that they're going to win their non-conference opponent game, which is going to put them out of it. Not that they're going to run the table in the Pac-12, is that I see that most of the top Pac-12 teams that could make it have a very difficult non-conference opponent team that they have to play.
I want to have a follow-up yes or no on this one. All right, follow-up yes or no, because you just brought some up. If Oregon goes in to Columbus and beats Ohio State, does your answer change? Week 2.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm with you on there. I think the
If we go
answer
to
to that
12,
question is
though,
going to come
if we
week
go
2.
to 12, if we go to 12, I think.
Oh, yeah.
But they'll get in, but ain't happening yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's Pac-12 teams that can run the table in the Pac-12. Well,
right.
But they all have tough non-conference opponents. Washington's got one. Oregon's got one. USC's got one. And I don't know that they can get past those teams and run the Pac-12.
I will give them credit, though, and we'll get to the Pac-12 in a minute. I will give them credit. They started scheduling those games trying to get in it. I mean, I'm going to give them. Yes. I give them credit for that instead of playing the cupcakes and then mad because they're undefeated and they don't get in. I think they're doing the right thing. I got to give them props for that. So, all right, question number 2, Eddie, does Tom Brady, the GOAT, there's 3 GOATs in my whole life: MJ, Tom Brady, and Tiger Woods. Does Tom Brady win another Super Bowl before he retires?
Absolutely. Love
Okay.
it. Now I'm the old guy, okay?
You're
I'm
the
the
old
old guy, and I was the happiest guy, bunch of 50-year-olds, and watched him do what he did. But until I just think yes, he will.
DJ, does he win another Super Bowl before he retires?
He does. He does. Now, some people are comparing this to the Peyton Manning situation where Peyton won one. A year later, they fell off a little bit, and then he retired. And so people are wondering if this is going to be the same thing with Tom Brady. I think Tom Brady has more zip on his ball here at the end of his career than Peyton did, in my opinion. So I think that Tom's got all the pieces in place at Tampa Bay. I think they're going to be tough to deal with. And, you know, for Eddie this year, I mean, Phil Mickelson, okay, wins a major, right? And Tom Brady wins a Super Bowl. I mean, this was the year for the old guy, man. And I'm with you, man. I was all for it.
It's the best, man. Still got a chance, man.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm not a Phil fan, so I may be the only one out there. I'm anti-Phil, but it is what it is. All right, here we go. This is a good one. Eddie, is Mac Jones the starting quarterback in New England before Week 8?
Yes, I am a Mac Jones fan. We had him signed at Kentucky for a year, then 2 years, then he decommitted, didn't decommit, and I just think that I love that kid. I think he's freaking. I like his moxie. I like the way he stands in the pocket. He's a true NFL quarterback. And so, yeah, I do. I think he's going to be the starter.
DJ,
imagine. First of all, can I just touch on that? I was at Kentucky with Eddie when Mac Jones was committed to us for 2 years, and imagine that. You know what I mean? Here he is. He goes to Alabama and just waits his turn and lights it up. And I'm with Eddie. I think Mac Jones has it, what it takes. You know, I think that he's going to be the future there, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's not in the mix by Week 8.
Yeah, I would. So, I like watching NFL preseason to watch the young guys and all that stuff. To me, I don't know how much of y'all watched of it, but New England looks like New England when he's at quarterback. And Cam is a phenomenal talent. I'm talking about, always has been, but it's like they're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. Last year they tried to do some things. I know it's preseason and all that stuff, but they seem to be schematically going back to what they're used to doing. And like when Mac Jones is at quarterback, like it looks like New England did when Tom Brady was there. And they're not running zone reads, they're not running quarterback power, all that stuff. I mean, they look like. And then when Cam's in the game, and he doesn't have, he's had shoulder surgery 18 times. He doesn't have the same zip on it he's always had. It looks late. He's trying to throw deep digs, and it's just not him, man. And I don't know. I don't think it goes Week 8. I think it happens early. So we'll see there. All right, Eddie. Question 4: Does Alabama lose more than one football game this year?
Yes, this will be the year.
Wow.
Because you remember last week I talked about A&M. This is going to be the year that one of the assistant coaches gets him. And so, yes, this is going to be the year.
Who's going to be the other one? That's
I
one.
think it's going to be Georgia.
Oh, they gonna get a rematch with Georgia though if they lose to A&M?
Yes.
Okay. All right. DJ, does Alabama lose more than one game this year?
No, I don't think they do. And for the same reasons that you're saying is, I think there's two teams that could beat them, and if they lose to one of them, then they're not going to play the other one, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? And so, I would say no.
Yeah, this one is, and he does this. I think this team kind of reminds me of when Jake Coker won the starting job. I think you're going to come out and you're going to see like all these different pieces of the puzzle everywhere. Week 1 against Miami, and then what you see at the end of the year is going to be completely different. I don't. Somebody's going to prove me different. I just don't see it happen. They may get them once, but I don't see it happening too many times. All right, Eddie Gran, do we find out the truth about aliens before we die?
Yes, absolutely.
The absolute truth.
Absolute truth. We will know.
How do we find out?
It's coming out right now. They're talking about it more than ever. I've never seen more movies and documentaries, and it's like from 3 to 4 o'clock in the morning is the witching hour.
That's it.
If you got to get up and take a pee at 3 to 4, just wait. Just wait.
I think me and DJ got about 10 years before we have to start doing that. No, there's evidently there's a good one like called UFO or something else on Netflix. It just came out. I haven't watched it yet, but I don't know. We'll see. DJ, we find out the truth about aliens before we die.
I tell you what, it's interesting that you bring it up because, aliens were talked about, years ago, and it seems like that fell off. And then with that new video that was leaked through the military where they have all these unidentified flying objects, that the military had to come out and say, yes, we have no idea what those are. And yes, we did record those. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think there may be some public opinion for something to happen. You know what I'm saying? I think that we're going to have a statement here soon that says there are no aliens by our military. You know what I mean? And if they do that, it's even going to increase the idea that there are aliens if they make that comment.
See, I think what happened was we were during the pandemic. We had to watch so much TV during the pandemic. It got bored of watching all those stuff. I think too many people watched conspiracy shows and all that stuff. I think that's what stirred everything up. I don't know.
I'd say no.
No. Okay. No. All right.
I'd say no.
All right, Eddie. This question's for me and you. Does Tiger Woods ever play again on the PGA Tour?
Yes, and part of it's because I want him to, and I think his comeback last time was phenomenal, and I think he obviously loves this game, and I think he's great for golf, and so my opinion's a little bit swayed there because I really want him to.
DJ, does he play again?
No. I think he's
No.
made his.
No.
Hey, I'm with you. Everybody loves seeing Tiger Woods in golf, okay? But he's already made his comeback. I mean, he won the Masters, after everything he went through. So I think that, that box he can check. You know what I mean? I came back and I could still do it. After this last injury, I just see him riding off into the sunset.
All right, I'm going to say he does come back. And this is the only reason why. And I want him to play. People that know me know that I have a massive issue. Like, I'm a Tiger Woods. Like, he's my favorite person of all time. But, after the back and the neck and all that stuff and the spinal fusion, he kind of went through that. He kind of almost, realized that he wasn't going to catch Jack in the majors. Okay? He's kind of, he was kind of that. Well, he's come back and won a couple. He is tied for the all-time lead, tied for number one with one of the most PGA golf tournaments of all time. So I think he's going to come back to try to win one more, just so he can. If he wins one more, then he's now the record holder and truly has established himself as the greatest of all time. So I think he comes back for that. And it may be you may have to turn on the TV. He may be playing in some backwards tournament that nobody's in to win it, but I think he comes back. All right, Eddie, have you ever, yes or no, you don't have to, you feel free to communicate however you would like to on this. Have you ever personally had a paranormal experience?
No.
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 All right. DJ, have you personally ever had a paranormal experience?
Yeah, I was playing Alabama, and then all of a sudden, it just, things went crazy. I mean...
I've had that same one. Sorry, let me retract. Unfortunately, I have.
I mean, besides on Saturdays, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
And the hard thing is for Eddie and I is we have very few experiences outside of the coach's office. So, you know what I mean? It's like what I was working one job one time, and the head coach's wife comes into the staff room and says, hey, we got to build some shelves in here. Is anybody in here know how to build shelves? And we all just kind of looked at each other and then I finally stood up. I said, we're football coaches. We can do nothing but coach. I mean, what do you know what I mean? So
That
I
is
would
the
say
most.
no.
That is the most true statement you have ever said. Like that'd be a great topic one day. Is football coaches don't know how to do anything. Like we can grill and we can cut the yard, but besides that, fix cars and build things and do like all this other manly stuff. Like not on the radar. And it drives my wife nuts. Like don't know how to do anything. Like if your car breaks down, the best thing I can do is give you a ride. You know. We did take CPR training. Hey, let me tell you something else that's kind of unique about coach. Do you know, like coaches, we can probably identify sports injuries better than doctors sometimes because of all the like yep, he's a sprained ankle, put him in a boot, he'd be good 3 or 4 weeks. Like you can do those kind of things. Like you know what broken fingers look like. You know all that stuff.
Every move that we make, my wife has to find like her go-to guy. She's like, I got to find my guy. And basically, it's the guy that's filling my void for everything that breaks down. You know what I mean? So,
the Flamingo Kid, man.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Flamingo Kid, that's a good one. All right, this is also I couldn't resist. This one's for Eddie as well. Have you ever? Because DJ, if you answer this one way or another, I may have to judge you a little bit on this one. Okay, but have you ever owned a pair of vintage, short, snug, 2-button polyester coaching shorts of the 70s and 80s, also known as the Nut Huggers?
Unfortunately, I can say yes, yes, and yes. I've got many of them, and I've got pictures that my daughters absolutely hammer me. Even with a flat top. I even had the flat top. Yes, sir.
I like that.
Yeah, I was all in.
DJ, please answer this the right way.
No, I mean,
okay.
I'm not in the right age generation. Now, I have seen the pictures though, and I even think I've seen some of Eddie at Miami in them. I mean, so I can confirm. You know, if you'd have said no, Eddie, I would have called you a liar because I have seen the photos.
I know.
Maybe we get Raquel. We can get Raquel to dig up a picture somewhere on.
I think she could probably find a couple
on the internet. I think they ought to make it an NCAA rule where all GAs have to wear these shorts for the entire time they're a GA. Or better than that, how about this? How about we have some fun with it? And so like when Scott Frost in Nebraska, when they go to their punishment for using an analyst should be for the rest of the year they have to coach in these shorts on game day.
Yeah, that should be with the long socks that come up to your knees with the stripes.
Yes, that should be your punishment. That's fair. Don't y'all think that'd be fair if you use an analyst, you have to coach the rest of the season in coaching shorts? That'd be a fair punishment because that's about what it is, clown show. But it is what it is. All right, here we go. Eddie, does Dabo take the Alabama job when Nick retires?
No, stays at Clemson.
DJ?
No, but he's going to, or his agent is going to make you think he would his entire time that he's at Clemson. But I would say no, he doesn't.
I'm saying yes, he does.
Oh,
he first of all, like, he loves Clemson, but he's getting to the point to where, I mean, what else can he do at Clemson that hadn't already? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, he's kind of doing that. This guy loves Alabama now. I'm talking about he may love Alabama more than Nick does. And so, like, I remember even, like, when they had these, he was on the 92 national championship team in Alabama. And so when they have these reunions, you know, he always makes sure that it's during their bye week. He shows up. Like, he comes to the stadium and comes out and does this. And, like, he makes it known that he's got a lot of people on his staff that were at Alabama or have those Alabama connections when he was there as a player. Like, this guy loves Alabama now. And I think that's the only job he leaves for. I think it was not put out public, but, you know, his buyouts different if it comes to the Alabama job now. I mean, it's a different deal. I mean, he's got different language in his contract for that reason. I don't think you go to that much trouble putting out buyout language in there and all that stuff. I think he does. I don't, and I think it's at the point now where if he goes to Alabama and it doesn't go well, then he just rides off in the sunset, goes to Boca Grande. I mean, the guy even has a house next to Nick Saban down in Boca Grande, Florida. I mean, the guy's, I'm telling you, I don't know. I will say this. I bet he has to turn it down. I mean, I think that's the first stop they go to when Nick retires. And here's the other thing, and this is the only reason I say that. We're all kidding ourselves if we don't think Nick Saban's going to pick the next coach. Nick Saban's going to pick the next coach at Alabama. So I think he'll start there. He has a great relationship with Dabo, and then you're going to see a very similar path go down. But he'll have something to say about it, but we'll see. All right, here's a good one. This is the last one, and we'll move on. Do movie theaters still exist in 10 years? Eddie,
yes.
go ahead.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'm a big movie guy. You know, I've got 3 girls. I've seen every Disney movie that you can ever imagine. And, popcorn, freaking slushy, and your kids at a dang movie. They can't get rid of that.
Okay. DJ.
I'm going to go yes, too. I'm with Eddie. I think, people want to have places that they go, they get out of the house, they have a different experience, and I'm going to say they do. I think the pandemic did, show that you can watch any movie you want from home, as long as the streaming companies are motivated to put it out there, then you don't have to go. But I think that they exist.
I'm going to go half and half. I think this is this decade's newspaper. I think you're still going to be able, in 10 years, you'll still be able to find one from place to place, but it's going to be like the newspaper. It's going to be hard to find. I think they're going to be big cities. I think it's the streaming stuff. Because I mean, look, I'm a huge movie guy too, but if I can sit at the house and watch it, and here's you can actually sit at the house and save money because it's only $19 to do them all at home. You go to the movie theater with 5 kids, I'm in for $100 before I even get started. So it's rough. All right, so we're going to move on to the Big 12 and Pac-12. We got our Big 12 and Pac-12 expert. DJ is the only expert. So we're going to go straight. We'll just start. I think this is going to be the quickest discussion we've had, and I could be wrong because DJ is the expert. It's going to be the quickest discussion I've had. All right, so let's start with Big 12, DJ, and we're going to start with you both sides. Give me your surprise, your contenders, and your winners in the Big 12. Who you got?
So I think the surprise team is West Virginia. I think this is the best team that Neil's had. They've made huge strides in the last couple of years. When he took over for Dana Holgorsen, Dana had a very veteran team, and they had an excellent team. If you remember his last year there at West Virginia, they were a double-digit win team. And I think Dana knew that he was losing everybody, and so Neil came in, and he's had to rebuild the roster and had to implement his 2 schemes on offense and defense. And West Virginia plays excellent defense. I mean, they're really good on defense. And the roster at West Virginia has the most returning starters that they've had since that year that Dana Holgorsen was there. And they had some really close games last year. You've seen progress in both years, or I should say from year 1 to year 2 with Neil. And I think that he's going to surprise some people.
Eddie, who you got?
Well, I've got contender. I had West Virginia as well as a contender, along with Iowa State, and my surprise team was going to be Baylor.
Okay.
This year, and the winner is OU.
All right, go back you because we all know where I'm going. DJ, what do you got as far as your contenders and winners?
So the contender is Iowa State. Now, what some people might not realize about Iowa State is they had a very good senior class last year, and they had some excellent players on there. I mean, running back, tight end, quarterback. I mean, those 3 players are as good as anywhere. I mean, and they're all going to be first or second team in the all-conference rankings. Well, because of the COVID year, they all came back. You know what I mean? A lot of those guys came back, along with some other positions that people don't even know about. So, and these guys have been starting at Iowa State for 4 years. Iowa State has a group of guys that have played a long time. Brock Purdy, their quarterback, has played a long time there, and he is really, really good. Okay, Brees,
He played against Eddie, didn't he? back in the day.
I mean, he is really, really good, and he's savvy. It's crazy that we're not even talking about Iowa State as being a surprise team. Like you can't even say Iowa State is a surprise team. You know what I'm saying?
They're preseason ranked number 7. They're preseason ranked number 7.
Correct. Yes. I mean, they are a legitimate contender. And, they're good on defense. They have a very difficult and unique scheme on defense. Okay, so the scheme that they started running at Iowa State is kind of a fad now across the country, and it's the 3-3 stack, 3 safety, 2 Tampa look. Well, that was invented at Iowa State. They were the first team to start doing that. You know what I'm saying? And so they're ahead of the curve on that scheme with everybody else. But this team is really good. I'm just telling you, they're a legit contender. I'll tell you an interesting stat. I saw it the other day. Is I think for 30 years or something crazy, Iowa State had 1 8-win season, and then since Matt Campbell's been there, I think they've had 3 8-win seasons.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
he's done a crazy job. I mean,
yes. And so, anyway, they're a legit contender. And then, of course, the winner is Oklahoma. Lincoln with his quarterbacks. Last year was the first year he didn't have an experienced quarterback. Okay.
Right.
And so now he does have an experienced quarterback. Okay. Spencer Rattler now has 1 year under his belt. Okay. And with Lincoln with the experienced quarterback, I mean, they're really, really dangerous. And they have a very talented team, and they run a maybe the toughest offense to defend in all of college football. I mean, they're going to win the Big 12, and they're going to be a national championship contender, in my opinion.
Yeah, I really don't have a lot to add to that. I mean, y'all basically talk about the same team. Same teams I was talking about. Neil Brown, know him very well. Ball coach, and he's when he came to Troy, they were they had struggled, and he kind of brought them back really quick. This is kind of the year, like year 3 is kind of when he's like, and I really don't count last year because of COVID year, but I would look for big things out of that group as well. Got a lot of buddies up there. They're doing a great job. Iowa State, the one thing I will say about Iowa State is I think they evaluate extremely well. One of my favorite running backs, and I got to give my man Clay Carter this, we tried like hell to get Breece Hall at Ole Miss. Bryce Hall. I keep saying Breece Hall. It is Breece. Bryce Hall's the YouTube guy. But we tried like hell, and we watched him early, and nobody really knew about the guy, and just couldn't, in that class, we were loaded with running backs. We already had Ely and Connor and trying to take another one and all that, but he's going to be he's a freaking Heisman contender. He's a beast. So he's doing really well too. And so love what they're doing in Oklahoma until, again, I'm kind of the same deal. Somebody proves me different.
Hey, I'm going to say this too real quick about Texas. Okay.
Yep. We didn't talk about Texas. We just left Texas out.
You know what? They're going to win a couple games this year. They're going to win a couple games this year. Because
yeah, I'm with you. I think they're going to win
on offense.
I think they're going to win some games that, to me, that's the biggest threat to Oklahoma. I mean, it is every year. You can throw the records out when you get there. You know how that game's insane. That's kind of like the Auburn-Alabama game where, it doesn't matter how bad you are or how good the other team is, except when Eddie was there. They were fearing the thumb when Eddie was at Auburn. But
yes, they were.
That was my favorite thing, fear the thumb. Fear the thumb. Fear the thumb. But, Texas, nobody's talking about them, but we'll see. It'll be a mystery until we go. So, all right, we're going to jump over to the Pac-12 before we get to our first week picks. Okay, we're going to jump over to the Pac-12, and as always, we'll start with our Pac-12 expert.
Yes,
DJ Eliot. DJ, who we got?
So, I think from a surprise standpoint, okay, I don't even know how to explain this because of what all they got going on, but I think Arizona State is going to be a surprise team. You know what I mean?
That would be a surprise.
Yes, with everything that they have going on. I know that sounds strange, but I think that they are going to be a surprise team.
They should have good talent.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yes. Okay. And I think that
Real good talent.
yes, I think that they are definitely
Evaluated well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. I think they're going to be a surprise team. I think that they have a good schedule this year. They've got the home games that they want, and you know how it is. I mean, the players somehow they rally through those things. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Somehow,
Resilient.
sometimes that makes them closer. You know what I'm saying? And people are expecting bad things to happen, and so now it's kind of it goes the other way. I think the contender is USC. USC is a very talented team. At wideout, they are extremely talented. Okay, I think that at quarterback, that's going to be the tell-all is how he plays, how Slovis plays. But I mean, Graham Harrell is an excellent coach and has done a lot of great things with their offense. Last year was the first year that Todd Orlando from Texas was in place at USC, and they made huge strides on defense, and that's with the COVID year too. You know what I mean? And you want to talk about restrictions? Like, I know people that coach at USC. You think you had practice restrictions at other places in California? I mean, they had some serious restrictions.
Yep.
I mean, they told me that they had support staff with a pole that was 6 feet long. Okay, and at practice they would go around and stick between the players and the coaches to make sure that everybody that was on the sideline was standing 6 feet apart. I mean,
is that a legal duty by the analyst? Was that a legal duty?
Yes, I don't know. As long as they weren't talking to them. You know
Yeah,
what I
they
mean?
can't. Don't instruct them. Like if they tell
Yes.
but if an analyst says, "Hey, you're 5 feet, back up to 6
Yes.
feet,"
Yes.
is that against the rules?
Right.
He's coaching
I mean,
them.
so
It's like
Time
a
to
get back,
investigate 'em.
coach.
Yep, gotta investigate them.
and so another one that they had in California, and this is from a different California school that I spoke to, is they were not allowed to have meetings indoors.
Yeah,
Now, if there is a state where you can have meetings outdoors, it's that one. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? But they were having their position meetings outside. So can you imagine just how do you get your video out there, and how do you know what I mean, and all that?
I can't, because we would have to have IVs in our position meetings if you're in the South doing it.
Correct. Yes.
You couldn't do it.
Yes. So anyway, long story short, people are talking about, hey, is Coach Helton going to make it, or this and that? I'm telling you, this team is a contender, and I think they're going to rise up, and I think they're really going to do some good things.
All right, Eddie. I'm sorry. Oh, keep
No, go
going.
ahead.
Let's go.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, Eddie. Who we got?
I got a little bit different here, and I'm not the expert that DJ is, because I'm from California, but I've never been out. I haven't been out there in a long time. So my surprise team is UCLA. I think Chip. I really believe that he's gonna. You'll see a big improvement with that team on defense, and I know offensively they'll score a lot of points.
We're gonna find out this weekend, by the way.
Yes, we are. My contenders are Oregon and Utah, because my winner is the USC Trojans.
Wow.
For everything DJ just said, I think Coach Helton gets it done. I think this quarterback is really good, and I think the people he has around him. I coached against Orlando many years, and I think he's really, really good. And I think this is the year they put it together, and they're the champion this year.
All right, DJ, I'll let you finish while I clean up my very simple Pac-12.
Okay. All right, I'm going to shock you guys. I think the winner of the Pac-12 this year is Washington. Washington, okay, has a ton of returning starters this year, okay? They have so many people back this year, okay? Washington had a first-year head coach, even though he was the defensive coordinator, okay? He still has some new things that he's puts it into COVID. And you guys forget, Washington won the North. Washington was the North winner, not Oregon. Washington won the North. But Washington, because of COVID, had to forfeit themselves playing in the Pac-12 championship last year. And that's how Oregon got into the Pac-12 championship and ended up beating USC and being the Pac-12 champs. I just think they're very, very tough. They have a lot of guys back. Good coaching staff. They're going to be the team that I think is going to win the Pac-12.
Yeah, I can wrap I can wrap mine up really quick. I think it's Oregon because I know how I know Mario very well, and he was not. I think secretly he thinks he's got a good one. I think with all they had a ton of opt-outs last year, a ton. He's recruited. I think it's very evident that he's been recruiting very well since he's been there. They had a ton of opt-outs, so they had to play a bunch of young players that are now ready to go, and they got that development out of those guys in the COVID year. And it was tough on him last year because he was, Panay Sewell didn't play, right? So he's got the guy that's one of the top picks in the draft doesn't play because these kids, they had all these NFL guys. Well, they didn't, and it wasn't that they opted out because they were told they wasn't going to play until late, and so he had all those kids having to play. They're going to be good. I agree with y'all about USC. I think they're going to be good. Also agree about Washington. I think they're going to be good. I just think when it comes down to players, I think this is the year that Oregon kind of puts it all together. I think they've been really close. I think we're going to find out a lot about Oregon in week 2 when they had to come to Columbus. And by the way, hats off to Ohio State because they're playing that game at 11 o'clock. And so that forces, which we'll talk about later on, but that forces the West Coast team to come kick it off at 11. That's ingenious. I don't know why everybody doesn't do that. I don't know why teams don't do that. Like we did it at South Alabama. We had to play Idaho. I was like, let's play this bad boy at 11 a.m., man, because that's 9 a.m. to them. That puts the players having to eat pregame meal at 5 a.m., having to wake up at 4:30. And college kids aren't used to doing that. They're used to going to bed at 4:30, but not waking up at 4:30. So I think that'll play into that game. But I look big things out of Oregon. I'm pulling for him. I love Mario to death. I like Clay, too. I worked with Clay for a little bit. Clay's a stud. I think he recruits extremely well. I think they're a quiet assassin over there. I think everybody's kind of like, but they got their Notre Dame game. I think Oregon and USC, I think, are going to have opportunities. They can control their own destiny. And that's something that you haven't been able to say about a Pac-12 team in a while. Yeah, I think if UFC goes undefeated and they beat Notre Dame, USC's in, man. They're going to get in the college football playoff. I think if Oregon goes undefeated and they go and they win the Pac-12 and they go and beat Ohio State, I think they're in. So I think it's the first time in a while that we've seen the Pac-12 control their own destiny.
Side note, my age right here. I coached Mario Cristobal at the University of Miami as a GA. How about
really?
That? And I love Mario. I do. I think he's done a heck of a job. But yeah, that tells you something right there. I shouldn't have probably said that, but
sorry.
It is what it is, man.
It is what it is. It's like I was talking. We did. I guess I can't say. We did a SEC team the other day on QwikCut, and we're in a Zoom, and I asked about a guy. He goes, "Oh yeah, how do you know him?" And the guy's the running backs coach at the school. I said, "I coached him." They looked at me like, "Excuse me?" I was like, "Yeah, I coached him," and I said, "Yeah, made me feel old." So, all right. So guess what time it is? It is our favorite. We're wrapping up. This is going to be the best segment every week. All right. When I did it with Rich Rod last year, we called it the Moneymaker segment. I guess I didn't even think about it, Raquel. I guess we're going to have to come up with some great segment. Although I don't know if Rich Rod can legally, since he's coaching, I don't think he can do Moneymaker stuff anymore. So we may borrow it for a little bit. But this is where we're going to pick games every week, okay? So normally what we'll do, we'll let the fans know what our normal process is. This is a preseason week. This doesn't count. So if you take our advice this week, be warned, this is on y'all. It's not on us. It's just what we think, okay? And I will let the fans know as coaches, the first couple of weeks are going to be kind of touch and go, but once we start watching games and getting things figured out, you will find games that are going to be very easy for you to watch. So with that being said, our normal process is each of us would pick 5 games. You can pick any 5 that you want, okay? And you're going to pick against the spread. You can pick over under. But then we're going to have a bonus pick each week, okay? Not this week because there's only 4 games. But starting next week, we're going to have a bonus pick to where you have to pick a money line from an underdog. So if the underdog is minus 3.5, 4 points, whatever it is, you're taking the underdog to win outright. You have to take one of those each week. And then we'll have a contest at the end of the year. We'll have a little competition. So sometime between now and next week, we got to figure out what the wager is. Friendly wager. All right. So we'll start. All right. And I'll go last, and I'll let Eddie. I already know where Eddie's going because he was arguing about the line because it's moved. All right, so we're going to leave it where it's at right now, okay? But Nebraska is minus 6.5 at Illinois. The over/under is 56. Okay, Eddie, we'll let you start. I'll finish them up.
I am going to go with Nebraska and minus 6.5, and I am going to go under 56.
Oh, you doubling up? You gonna pick them both?
Doubling up on that one.
Wow. Okay, I like it. Go ahead, DJ. What you got on that game?
I'm going with Illinois. You know, Illinois has a new staff. You know how hard that is to prepare for when you don't know what you're going to expect. You know, Illinois had recruited well with the old staff, so they have some decent players there. I just think that they're going to keep it within 6.5 or win the game.
I am also going. I came really close. I love Illinois in this game. I'm taking Illinois plus the points, plus 6.5. I do like the under thought, but I'm not 100. And because Belima and his history, I do like the under thought there. But I'm going to stay. My official pick will be Illinois plus 6.5. I'll tell you something we haven't talked about, and this is why I'm taking Illinois. One, Illinois beat Nebraska last year. Okay, they didn't win many games, but they won that one. So there's going to have that confidence, and that affects teams. I don't care what anybody says. That they know that they can beat them. That's one. Two is it's at Illinois. Last year was a COVID year with no fans in the stands. I think that's going to be a real effect. It's been a long time since college kids have played in front of people. And first weekend college football, I mean, Illinois is not the place that's like known to be selling stuff out, but they got a new coach. First game, I expect a big crowd. I got Illinois at home, man. I like it. All right. Now, game number 2, Fresno minus 27.5. It's another big half point. 27.5 versus UConn at Fresno. Who you got, Eddie?
I got Fresno minus 38.5. How about that?
I like it.
Yes,
DJ,
sir.
what do you got?
I got Fresno too.
You got Fresno too. How about this? It's 27.5 points. And one of my favorite sayings is, it's not enough. They may beat them by 77. Okay? Like jump on that one. That may be one of my favorite picks. Dude, UConn didn't even play football last year. The people, they're one of the very few teams that did not play at all last year. They were not in a conference, and they just didn't play. So any player that they did have is gone and has transferred somewhere else. Okay, this is going to be like unnecessary roughness. Y'all remember that movie with Scott Bakula as a quarterback when the Texas State back in the day, the Armadillos got shut down for probation? This is going to be like SMU in '85. There's going to be like they're going to go get the guy that's been programming video games to come out and play left tackle. All right, this is going to be ugly. I think Fresno beats the brakes off of them. And in Fresno, come on, 27.5, it could be 100.5. I don't think it's enough. All right, UCLA at home, which we just talked about UCLA, versus Hawaii at home, minus 17. Who you got, Eddie?
I think this is easy money, 71 over.
Oh, all right, over 71. All right, what you got, DJ?
I'm taking UCLA. I think UCLA is going to win this game by at least 17.
Eddie, I went, because you stole my thunder. 71 is not enough.
Ain't enough.
It's not enough. Look, they score points. UCLA defense is obviously was suspect a little bit. In Hawaii, like in the early in the season, man, they play with guys, and yeah, I know they're coming to the U.S. to play this game, but I think early in the season they'll get over here playing time and play. It's a later game, so they didn't really take advantage of the time difference. Look, I think over 71. Now, look, I don't know. 17 is kind of attractive to me with UCLA because I do think UCLA's got I think Brian Kelly has I think it's time. Not Brian Kelly, Chip Kelly. It's time. It's a big year for him. Okay, and Westwood. So I think he's going to come out scoring. I think Hawaii scores. 71's not enough. I could see this being like a 41-30 game, right on it. But I think 71. I think it could get crazy. All right, last game. UTEP -9 at New Mexico State. Eddie, who you got?
I'm taking the points. New Mexico State.
Oh, big. Okay, go ahead, DJ. That one surprised me. Go ahead, DJ.
I'm going with UTEP. I think they came out early last year and played well. We got second year underneath the belt here, or third year underneath the belt here with Dana Dimmel. New defensive coordinator, who I think is a really good coach, and Bradley Pivotal. They're really sound on defense now. I think UTEP's gonna win by 9 or more.
I'm also going to let everyone know that UTEP -9 is not enough. Okay, I mean, New Mexico State. God bless them. They're not in the league. They're out there. They are struggling. Okay, they actually, what people don't know is they played a couple of games this past spring. I bet y'all didn't know that, did you? They actually played in the spring. They lost. They got their teeth kicked in by a 1AA team. Okay, and they played a D2 team and barely won. Okay, so I'm going with UTEP by 1,000. Like that may be my favorite game on the slate. I may go like a UTEP -9, Fresno -27.5 parlay, and not even watch the games because I'm just going to count my money later on. Like I know that's going to hit. But UTEP -9 is very easy. Maybe the easiest one on the slate for me. So it's either going to be me right or you right, Eddie. One of us on that one. But I'm impressed that you're taking New Mexico State +9. You got faith. I like that. Now, hey, another interesting thing though about this game. Have any of y'all ever been to New Mexico State to play?
No.
Not to play, but I've been there. I've been to Las Cruces.
Right. So in the Fun Belt, we would have New Mexico State used to be in the Sun Belt, right? And so I've made a couple trips out to Las Cruces to play. You actually land. It's a very eerie deal. Okay, so you're actually landing in El Paso when you come in. Okay, so where UTEP is, and you feel like you're about to land in the desert. Okay, I mean, like there's nothing around. And all of a sudden, it's like boom, you hit a tarmac somewhere, and then the entire time that you leave El Paso, it's like an hour and a half drive across the border to Las Cruces. The whole time you're driving, like literally, you're on a 2-lane highway, and on the right is this thing called America. On the left is this place called Mexico. Okay, and to see all the towns and stuff, it's very surreal. It's like you're not even like you're going out of country to play. It's a very weird deal. But I think that short little trip across the border right there, it's not a lot of travel. It's actually a tough place to travel, but El Paso is right there. So I got UTEP very big on that one. All right, guys. So as always, I want to thank you guys for joining us. Next week, now it's 5 games, any 5, so you can study, you can watch all weekend. The UCLA game, I'm going to be paying very close attention to that one because I got some picks coming up next week because they got some big ones. The fun thing is now week 1 we got some games, got some real games. It's not like we got some legit games to pick from. Be interested to see what you guys' picks are, but we're gonna keep tabs. By the end of the year, we're gonna know who's up and who's down. We'll put out a little graphic for all our fans so they can wager and pick which coach they want to wager with as we go on. But appreciate you guys as always, and look forward to a great, truly week 1 of college football. Are y'all juiced and ready to go or what?
Kaboom!
Ready.
Let's go.
Let's
It's
do
time.
it.
It's time. Well, until next time, take care.
Take care.
Take care. We'll see you guys.